In today's video, I'm going to be going through my top 10 players right now in the NBA under the age of 25. Recently, actually yesterday, as I'm recording this video, ESPN came out with a list of their top players under the age of 25, and to say the least, it was a little bit questionable. I'm all for people having different opinions, but this list I definitely disagreed with. Now, the difference between my list and their list is that they were doing it based off of what they think the players' talents will be like in the future, and I'm doing mine based off of what I think they are ranked right now, the players under 25 years old. But on that ESPN list, they had very questionable things. The one that stood out the most to me is having LaMelo Ball over Jayson Tatum, but we'll see how the future plays out. And for today's video, I'm going to be going through my top 10 right now under the age of 25. Before we get started, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I post tons of NBA content about twice a week, and I'm also trying to hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel by the summer. So let's everyone subscribe so we can hit that goal together and help me reach my goals on the channel here. So let's get started with the list now. Starting off with some honorable mentions that just missed out on the list, I've got Ja Morant, Jamal Murray, and De'Aaron Fox, all very skilled point guards who just missed out on the list, and a couple of controversial ones here as well. I've got Ben Simmons, who for me just misses out because I still really don't think that he's reached his full potential, and his scoring ability for me is holding him back a little bit, and the fact that he can't shoot and isn't aggressive enough to fully maximize his scoring ability just pushes him off the list for me. His defense, playmaking, passing, and rebounding is all very good and elite, but his scoring and shooting especially isn't at the level for me yet where I put him in the top 10 of this list. The other one is Trae Young, who lots of people would also have him on the list and maybe higher up the list as well, but for me, his defense is so bad right now that I just have to leave him off the list. He's probably a top 15 player in the entire league when it comes to offense, but he really can't do anything on the defensive end of the floor, and he's a huge liability there, and because of this, I just have him off the list. At number 10, I've got Shae Alexander. I know putting SGA over Trae and Ben Simmons is pretty controversial here, but in my opinion, Shae Alexander is a player that is slept on lots in the NBA and is very underrated. We look at what he's doing this season, he can do it all on the court. He's averaging around 24 points for the Thunder this season, has a very good three-point shot and can score in the mid-range, and has really improved his shooting this season along with his efficiency, being one of the more efficient scorers at the guard position in the NBA. He's also averaging 5 rebounds and 6 assists this season. He's a pretty good playmaker overall, and he can play defense too. Like I mentioned, he can do it all on the court, and from watching him play, he does a very good job of defending on ball and defending the perimeter. We look at the Thunder this season, who have a 20-30 record, and while that seems not good at all, before this season they were easily considered the worst team in the NBA, especially with the team that they have right now on paper. But Shae has led this team to having a decent record and not being the very worst team in the league. And while this sounds funny because we're talking about a team that's in 13th in the Western Conference right now, they have still overperformed this season, and it's all because of Shae's breakout season on the offensive end of the floor and how he's a very good overall player. And because of this and how he can do it all at a very high level, I'm giving him a spot on this list. At number 9, I've got Domantas Sabonis, another player who, for me, doesn't get enough recognition and is pretty underrated. His Pacers aren't doing that well this season, and because of this, we can't put him higher up on the list because his play hasn't resulted in wins for his team yet, and he's not having that big of an impact as maybe some of us expected, but his numbers are insane this year. He's putting up 20 points per game this season for the Pacers, 11 rebounds per game, and in my opinion, is easily the best rebounding non-center in the NBA, along with 6 assists. This guy's passing is pretty underrated, especially when he's in the post. He's a good playmaker, has great court vision, and finds the open man a lot of the time, resulting in a lot of assists and buckets for his team. He's also scoring his 20 points on a pretty efficient 53% from the field, and for me, I think he's a pretty good defender as well, maybe around the average stage, a little bit over average, but again, another great overall player who plays a traditional play style but still fits into the modern day NBA, is the best player on his team, and again, is one of those guys that can do it all on the court and earns a spot on this list. At number 8, I've got Brandon Ingram. Ingram's one of the better pure scorers that we've seen in the league today. He can do it all when it comes to scoring. He can score near the rim, has a very smooth mid-range shot, is good at playing in the post as well, taking turnaround jumpers, and he's very good from 3 too. His scoring ability reminds me of Kevin Durant. That's just how good it is, and we know that he's improved greatly over the last few years and still has room for improvement in his game and lots of potential. His playmaking has gotten better over time as well, especially this season, and the way that he's playing this season really makes me think that he should be a lock for a top 30 player in the NBA right now. As I mentioned, his scoring ability is most of what makes his game incredible. He's a very smooth scorer, and watching him play is very satisfying because of how he can score the ball in many different ways and so make it look so effortless. And as I mentioned, he's improving his playmaking and he's continuing to improve his defense as well. It hasn't always been great because of his frame and how he doesn't have that much strength, but he's continuing to improve as a player, and right now, because of mostly his scoring, he ranks at 8 for me on this list. At number 7, I've got Bam Adebayo, the first center on the list here, and Adebayo is a really special talent on both ends of the floor, and if you ask me, I still think he's one of the most impactful players in the league, and especially on the defensive end of the floor, I'd still classify him as maybe even a top 5 defender in the NBA. He's dominant down low defensively, can protect the rim as well as anybody in the NBA, and is also very versatile, which makes him a luxury for the Miami Heat to do whatever they want with him. Defensively, he can guard anyone out there on the floor and at a very high level. He's also very good offensively. He's always been a consistent scorer ever since his breakout season, and he's also been a very good playmaker, one of the better playmaking centers in the NBA, and a very good overall player. At number 6, I've got Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown could be anywhere from 6 to 4 on this top 10 under 25 list, and basically 4 to 6 is interchangeable. It's very close, but for Jaylen Brown, he's also having somewhat of a breakout season this year. A lot of the guys on the list have already had their breakout seasons despite being really young players. All of them still have room for improvement, but when it comes to Jaylen Brown, he's averaging 24 points per game this season and overall has taken his scoring to another level this season, even when it comes to efficiency, and also his shooting has gotten a lot better. He's a classic 3-level scorer who can score anywhere on the court, and like I mentioned, he's really improved his shooting this year, especially from 3, and he's a good defender as well, which makes me think that by the end of this season, if things go well for him offensively, he could be all the way as high as 4th on this list because of how good he is defensively as well, how he can basically defend anyone 1 through 4 on the defensive end of the floor, and really because of how his overall scoring and overall defense is elite right now. I'm putting him number 6 on this list. He could be, as I mentioned, anywhere from 4 to 6, and probably top 20 in the NBA right now. At number 5 on the list, I've got Donovan Mitchell. It's very close between him and Jaylen Brown, but as we know, Mitchell developed into a star very early in his career, and right now, especially this season, is leading his Utah Jazz team on the offensive end of the floor, and he's led them so far to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and they've kept that throughout this entire season. Again, similar to Brandon Ingram, Mitchell is one of the best pure scorers that we know in the game right now. This season, he's averaging around 25.5 points per game on very efficient numbers, and I also think that his defense is pretty underrated, and that's why I rank him slightly over Jaylen Brown. If he had under average defense, I'd probably put Jaylen Brown over him because of his defensive play as well, but I think Mitchell does a lot of winning things on the defensive end of the floor. He's a pretty good perimeter defender as well, and because of his overall scoring and also how he's one of the best 3-level scorers in the NBA as well, I'm putting him top 5 on this list. At number 4, I've got Devin Booker. Booker and Mitchell is a very interesting comparison, and I might even end up making a video on that comparison specifically since I'm doing a lot of comparisons on the channel right now, but I ultimately have to put Booker a little bit higher for now just because he's a little bit of a more efficient scorer, and both of these guys, what stands out in their games is their scoring and how they're 2 of the best in the league at it. Booker's the slightly worse defender, but on the offensive end of the floor, he's hit some big shots this season, and both him and Mitchell have led their teams to the top 2 seeds in the Western Conference, but Booker is the more efficient scorer score, and just overall, I think he's a little bit of a better scorer than Donovan Mitchell, and since both of them are elite scorers and that's the main component of the game that we look at for both of them, I gotta give a slight edge to Booker here, but really 4, 5, and 6 with Booker, Mitchell, and Jaylen Brown are all interchangeable, and we'll have to see at the end of the season how it plays out, but for now, they rank this way for me, and as we know, they can all very much improve their games as their careers go on, since they're all still obviously young players that have aspects of their games that can still have some room for improvement. At number 3, I've got Zion. When you think about Zion, there's two words that come to mind: unstoppable and dominant. I mean, there's really no one in the league that can stop this guy, and this year he's really taken that next step into the player that we've all expected him to be, and continues to improve night after night, and currently is averaging 27 points per game on the season on a ridiculous 63% from the field. It's just amazing how efficient he is, and how when he gets to the rim, he's gonna score way more than half the time at the rim, and almost no one can stop him at the rim. And really just his overall dominant scoring has to put him up here on the list, and he's on the cusp of being a top 15 player in the NBA right now with the way he's playing right now. Give this guy an average 3-point shot and slightly over average defense, and he's going to be the best player in the league one day. At number 2, I've got Jayson Tatum. The only reason I have to put Tatum over Zion right now is while Zion might be a little bit more dominant and a better scorer right now, Tatum's the better all-around player, and he can do lots of other things like score at all 3 levels of the game, do it very smoothly and very efficiently as well. He's very good at doing things like shooting pull-up threes, especially off of the pick and roll, and he's also a very good rebounder. Just like Zion, both of them are 2 of the better non-center rebounders in the NBA right now, and Tatum is also a very good passer and is a really good defender as well. He's kind of like Jaylen Brown that way. He can defend lots of positions, pretty much 1 through 4, and does a very good job of defending on ball and off ball, and overall he can pretty much do everything on the court and is a very good overall scorer. As I mentioned, can score all 3 levels and is right on the cusp of being a top 10 player in the league if he can keep this up. And the number 1 player in the NBA right now under the age of 25 is Luka Doncic. I said it last video and I'll say it again. I think Luka's probably going to be the best player of our generation. He's already an incredible overall player, close to averaging a 30-point triple-double this season and last season, and he's improving his efficiency, is an incredible ISO scorer, playmaker, rebounder, and if he improves his defense, he's going to be the best player in the league in no time. These 3 guys at the top of the list here, Luka, Tatum, and Zion, are probably going to be 3 of the best players of our generation coming up, and it's 3 players that, as fans, going into the next generation of the NBA, we really have to start appreciating these guys' games now and appreciate them going forward, because they're extremely special talents, all in their own different ways, that are extremely fun to watch as well, and are the players of our next generation. So there you have it. That is the end of today's video. Those are my top 10 players right now in the NBA that are under the age of 25. Definitely be sure to comment down below what you think of my list, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and what you would change. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. As I mentioned, road to 1K for the channel. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you all next video.